damn phones, Babylons can't crack the code.
What do YouTube? B Kelly back again with another banger video. In today's video, y'all, I am going to be talking about one of the more underappreciated college football quarterbacks in recent years. Now, obviously, there is just more than one, but today's video, I am going to focus on just one quarterback, and that quarterback is Terry Wilson. But before I explain why I think Terry Wilson is one of the more underappreciated college football quarterbacks recently, you have to know who Terry Wilson is first. So we're going to kick it all the way back to the beginning in Del City, Oklahoma. At Del City High School, Terry Wilson broke out on the scene as a junior, where he threw for 2,856 yards and 24 touchdowns. He was a guy who could make plays on the ground and through the air. He was just that player, and he was just the guy you wanted on your team to take you to the promised land. For that season, Del City would end up going 6-6. In Terry Wilson's senior season at Del City, he had a great season where he threw for 2,406 yards, 25 touchdowns through the air, while also rushing for 709 yards, averaging an extremely impressive 8.5 yards per carry and 11 touchdowns as well. The Del City Eagles would end up going 6-5 that season, but the thing that was the most eye-popping thing about that team is that the offense was a lot more explosive than the previous season before, and a lot of that had to go to Terry Wilson and his playmaking abilities to extend plays and to just put the ball where no one can even get it. He was just that dynamic for Del City, and he really helped elevate their game. In Terry Wilson's high school football career, he would be named as a two-time All-State honorable mention. He was also ranked as Oklahoma's #2 prospect in the state by the Tulsa World and the Oklahoman coming out of high school. Coming out of high school in the 2016 recruiting class, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite Rankings, Terry Wilson ranked as a 3-star recruit, 359th best player nationally, the 8th best dual-threat quarterback, and the 2nd best player in the state of Oklahoma. Terry would hold offers from schools such as Oregon, Arizona State, Colorado, Houston, Indiana, Memphis, Nebraska, San Diego State, Texas Tech, and Arkansas, just to name a few. He would end up committing to Oregon ultimately, though. Terry Wilson would end up being an early enrollee for Oregon, and he had a very, very good shot at being the starting quarterback for the Oregon Ducks in the 2016 college football season. Now, he was not the only young quarterback competing for the starting job. He was competing with at least 4 other dudes, and it was going to be a tough competition. However, Terry Wilson would not play in a single game for the Oregon Ducks in the 2016 college football season. He redshirted. And the guy who showed up for Oregon in that season was another young quarterback who was just blowing everyone out of the water when he was playing in the games, and that guy goes by the name of Justin Herbert. Now, Justin Herbert in that season completed 64% of his passes, threw for 1,936 yards, 19 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions in only 8 games. After this season, in spring camp of 2017, it was basically said that the starting job was open, but it was going to be very hard to take away from Justin Herbert. And right when spring camp started, Terry Wilson was there, but about a week into it, he would enter his name into the transfer portal, and shortly after would transfer to Garden City Community College. Terry Wilson at Garden City Community College in the 2017 college football season was a straight baller. In this season, he completed 58% of his passes, threw for 2,133 yards, 26 touchdowns, and only 11 interceptions. And on the ground, he rushed for 518 yards and 5 touchdowns on 126 carries. In this season as well, he was named Jayhawk Offensive Player of the Year, which was his conference he played in, and he finished the regular season 2nd in the Jayhawk Conference in passing yards, 1st in touchdown passes, and 1st in efficiency. He also ranked 6th in the nation in touchdown passes, and his head coach Jeff Sims had this to say: "He's a dual-threat quarterback that's very intelligent, dynamic, fast. He's an accurate thrower." According to the JUCO composite rankings from 24/7 Sports, in the 2018 recruiting class, Terry Wilson was a 3-star recruit, the 40th best JUCO player, and the #2 dual-threat quarterback in the nation for JUCO. Terry Wilson, coming out of Garden City Community College, held a variety of Power 5 offers, but he would ultimately commit to Kentucky. As a redshirt sophomore in the 2018 college football season, his first season at Kentucky, he became the first player to start his first Kentucky game at quarterback since Jared Lorenzen in 2000. In this season as well, Terry Wilson would help lead Kentucky to their first ever 10-win season since 1977. The Kentucky Wildcats would end up going 10-3 in this season, including a bowl game victory. Now, his stats included this season completed 67% of his passes, throwing for 1,889 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions, while on the ground he rushed for 547 yards, averaging 4 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. And not only that, somewhere where I think Terry Wilson really cemented his legacy in the Kentucky football program was in his second ever game as a Kentucky Wildcat, where he traveled down to Florida and had to take on the Florida Gators, in which at the time Florida was a top 25 team, and they would end up defeating them 27-16. Now, this rarely happens, and this is a very big deal for Kentucky football, is to defeat a team like Florida in Florida. Going into his redshirt junior season, right before the 2019 college football season, there was a lot of hype around the Kentucky football team as they were returning a lot of pieces on defense, and they were starting to look very dangerous on the offensive side of the ball, and people thought this was the season where Kentucky could actually possibly compete for a spot in the SEC championship game. Although it would be extremely hard, they could definitely compete for it. But unfortunately for Terry Wilson, 2 games in the season, he would suffer an injury that would make him miss the rest of the 2019 college football season. For this season, he would start off 2-0, where he completed 64% of his passes, threw for 360 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, while rushing for 44 yards and 1 touchdown. Terry Wilson and the Kentucky football team in the 2020 college football season, as weird as it was, they did kind of have a down season where people thought they would be a lot better than they were, but they did struggle for the most part of the season, going 5-6, including their bowl win over Indiana. Terry Wilson in this season would play in 10 games where he completed 63% of his passes, threw for 1,187 yards, 7 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions, and on the ground, he rushed for 424 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, it wasn't only Terry Wilson that received criticism, it was basically the entire Kentucky offense, as the whole offense in the season was getting called out by fans and other spectators of the sport of college football that thought they were off the entire season. Now, my thoughts on the Terry Wilson slander that has been thrown around his name by not only Kentucky fans, but SEC fans as well, as I think it's kind of disrespectful to Terry Wilson, as this is a guy that has brought a lot of success to a program that has really not experienced the most success in football at all. Terry Wilson has recently entered the transfer portal to see where he will play his final year of college football. But he did end his final year at Kentucky on a high note, winning the bowl game versus Indiana. His career record at Kentucky is 17-8, which is second for all-time wins for a starting quarterback, right behind 19. He is also the first player in school history with at least 3,000 passing yards and 1,000 rushing yards in his career, and he currently is 8th in total yards for his career at Kentucky, and he's the 3rd quarterback in school history with at least 20 career passing touchdowns and 10 career rushing touchdowns. Wherever Terry Wilson goes, I feel like he's going to prove a lot of people wrong from his last season he had, and I think he's going to ball out in my opinion. I think he's definitely going to do it, and I think he has all the ability to have his best season yet wherever he transfers to. Well guys, now that I'm at the end of the video, remember to smash that like button, turn on them post notifications, and subscribe for more videos. B. Kelly, out.